Hi everyone, it's Lauren. Today I have a book haul video for you. This isn't really a monthly book haul, this is more of an autumnal, seasonal book haul perhaps, because I've been saving up a lot of books for some time and now I have quite a massive pile at my feet. So I'm going to try and rocket through these as quickly as possible. So first things first, you may have seen quite a few posts on social media about the Books in My Bag campaign recently. That's because on the 6th of October, I think that was the first Saturday in October, was Independent Bookshop Day, and they had a lot of promotion and events going on that day, and a lot of people posting about it on their Instagram accounts, including myself. And later on in November, the 21st of November, they have an awards ceremony, their Reader's Choice Awards. So the shortlists for all of their different awards categories have already been announced. They've got categories like children's fiction, non-fiction, and two of the categories that I personally look to, because it's the kind of books that I read, is the Novel Award and the Popular Fiction Award. There are some great books nominated in both of these categories, but I just wanted to show you a few of the picks that I am most excited for. So in the novel category, the first one I have here is The End We Start From by Megan Hunter. Now this is about a dystopian future, about some big environmental crisis that's happened in London, and while that's happening, a woman gives birth. So it sounds like a really realistic depiction of what would happen in that apocalyptic scenario, but also focusing on what happens if you are displaced, such as refugees, and you are a new mother at the same time. We also have The Underground Railroad by Colson Whitehead. Good name, Colson, good name. This has been absolutely everywhere and I've wanted to read it for such a long time. It won the Pulitzer Prize for Fiction this year, and it is about the Underground Railroad in, sorry, railroad is so hard for me to say with my accents, like railroad. But it is about the Underground Railroad in North America during the slave period, where slaves from the South would escape to the North. And I was really surprised actually, this was longlisted for the Man Booker Prize. When I saw that it was longlisted, I thought it would win because I've just seen it everywhere and it wasn't even shortlisted in the end. So quite interesting, but I've been really wanting to get to this. And the other book I've been really meaning to get to is Conversations with Friends by Sally Rooney, which is about four friends. It's almost like a modern take on friendships and relationships. It's four friends and their relationships with each other. And this sounds really cool. Again, it's been everywhere. It's had a lot of praise and I've been wanting to get to it for some time. So this is a really nice excuse. And in the popular fiction category, I've got two here. The Keeper of Lost Things by Ruth Hogan, which is about a man who collects a lot of stuff, or lost things, I suppose. Clues in the title. And then he goes off and leaves his assistant to try and find all of the people that all of these items belong to. And this just sounds really adorable. And then the other one that I'm excited about in popular fiction is Eleanor Oliphant is Completely Fine. Now this is about a woman, Eleanor Oliphant, who does the same thing every day and everything is perfect and she's quite okay, thank you. And then something happens in her life and it says a simple act of kindness is about to shatter the walls Eleanor has built around herself. So it's about breaking out of, I guess, this routine and this monotony of being completely fine and trying something a little bit different. So as I said, the award ceremony is on the 21st of November. So until that point, you can go online and vote for your favourite book in each of the many categories. And it's not just fiction and novel. There are lots and lots of categories that you can choose from. So if you want to go and vote for your favourite book, you can go on nationalbooktokens.com/vote. So let's get on to some of the other books. The first one I have here was sent to me by Pam Macmillan, and this is What We See in the Stars by Kelsey Oseed, I'm going to say, I'm not sure how to pronounce her last name, and this is beautiful. This is the kind of book that I've just been wanting. When I was on holiday with my boyfriend, the Maldives, we went on this cruise at night where you could just look at the stars because there's obviously no light out there. And it was amazing, and I was just thinking, I wish I had someone here to tell me what all of these constellations are and what they all mean and like the legends behind them. And then along came this book and it is absolutely gorgeous. You've got all the different the classic things like the constellations and the star signs, what are they called? Anyway, those things. But also just mythical animals, and it's so beautifully illustrated, and there's so much knowledge in here about like space as well. So this is gorgeous, and particularly would be really nice for a gift, I think, around Christmas time. Some other things that I have here, I have a proof which is sent to me by Vintage, and this is beautiful. This is The Mermaid and Mrs. Hancock by Imogen Hermes Gowor, and this is about, well, it takes place in Victorian London, I believe, but at least the UK, and it's about somebody who is perhaps a very real life mermaid. But what the feeling I get from this book is that it's combining fantasy with the idea of the Victorian freak show, and it seems like a bit of a mystery novel. I don't know too much about it. I was just like, yes, that sounds amazing. Mermaids in Victorian London, please give it to me. So this looks gorgeous, although it is a chunker, and it's big and floppy. They're difficult to hold on the train, these big and floppy books, but I'll let them off. I next have a book which was sent to me unsolicited by Granta, and Granta is so naughty. They always send me unsolicited things, but then I open them and I go, oh, okay, yeah, yeah, I want those. And this is The Alarming Palsy of James Orr by Tom Lee. And just look how cool and spooky this front cover is. This seems to be a one-day book, like a day in the life of a person. That's the impression I get from the blurb. It's about a man who wakes up one morning with Bell's palsy, and all one side of his face is completely drooped, I guess, like if you have a stroke, and he can't go to work, he can't do anything, the doctors can't help him, so he just kind of wanders around his town and maybe discovers some things about himself and the town that he's living in. More of a novella, I think, really, than a novel, but yeah, it seems really cool, and I love that the house is kind of sinking down to one side as well. This book was sent by Penguin, and it's Little Fires Everywhere by Celeste Ng. Now, I have not read Celeste Ng. Everything I Never Told You had such high praise, and when Penguin said that they were releasing this, I just said, yes, please. I would love to read her because I've heard so much about her. This seems very small town America, where there's two women who are from quite different backgrounds but become friends, and then within this town there is an adoption scandal where a couple are trying to adopt a Chinese baby, but then a custody battle ensues and the two friends find themselves on either sides of this moral debate. So it sounds really intriguing, and I'm also looking forward to getting introduced to Celeste Ng's writing. So these are the last two books in this haul that were sent to me by publishers, and the rest I all bought myself. And this is part of Penguin in the UK's Black History Month book club, because October in the UK is Black History Month here. And they've sent me two non-fiction books which I'm so excited about. So we have James Baldwin, The Fire Next Time, and Zadie Smith, Changing My Mind, and both of these are essays, and I'm really pleased to have these, and I'm really looking forward to reading them. The James Baldwin is going to be next on my list. I'm going to start that tomorrow because I've not read any James Baldwin, and I do own Giovanni's Room, and I think something else as well, but I've just not got around to reading him, so this is first priority. And with Zadie Smith, I find her quite interesting because sometimes I get on with her fiction and sometimes I don't, so I'm really looking forward to hearing her non-fiction voice and seeing what that's like. And also look how beautiful this cover is. Well, both of them really. Such a nice little duos. But Penguin have a lot of really interesting titles that they're doing for Black History Month, so you go on their Instagram or look at them on Twitter and you can see the stuff that they're doing for a Black History Month book club. So if you watched my last video, time to get a plug in midway through the video, Lauren, well done, which was a walk along the South Bank in London with Will, my boyfriend. We stopped off at the National Theatre bookshop, and while I was in there, I went and bought some plays, which was my... That was the whole ruse behind us doing that video, so that I could go and buy books. So I bought Rosencrantz and Guildenstern Are Dead by Tom Stoppard and Angels in America by Tony Kushner. I watched both of these recently. I'd seen Rosencrantz and Guildenstern before. It's one of my favourite plays. To be fair, I think when you see it performed, it's pretty self-indulgent, but it's the kind of thing that when you read it, you really like it. Rosencrantz and Guildenstern, if you're not aware, are two very minor characters in Hamlet, and at the end of the play, when everyone else is dying, a messenger just comes on stage and says, oh, by the way, Rosencrantz and Guildenstern are dead. So what this play does is imagine Rosencrantz and Guildenstern as characters in their own right. So you only see Hamlet and all the other characters in the play when Rosencrantz and Guildenstern are there, and then they go off stage and we see what Rosencrantz and Guildenstern are doing in the meantime. But it's very existential. It talks a lot about fate and the nature of theatre, and it's really interesting, especially if you like Hamlet. This is really cool, and I would really recommend the film as well. And Angels in America I saw at the National Theatre recently. I'd not seen I didn't know anything about Angels in America before I saw it. It was such an incredible production, and it is going to Broadway now, I believe, so if you know, because everyone can just get to Broadway really easily. But if you can go and see it in New York, I would really recommend it, because we had Andrew Garfield, Nathan Lane. It was just an amazing cast, and it was such a fabulous production. I don't know if they're all going over as well, but it was the kind of play that as you're watching it, you're thinking, I need to read this because it's so interesting, and I cannot get this just from listening. I need to kind of step back and listen to these ideas that he's discussing. This is about the AIDS crisis in America, essentially, but it's kind of about so much more about that. It's about coming to terms with who you are, and all kinds of things, like about different people's prejudices. It really analyses America at that time, and kind of what it is to be human, what it is to have beliefs. It's vast, it's vast. I'm sure I'll understand it a little bit more after giving this a read. And finally, I had a little book depository splurge as well. So the first book I have here is Little Black Book by Atigo Uwagba, and this is about, well, it says a toolkit for working women. And I had seen this around on social media, but then I heard her, she was on the Control Delete podcast, which is a podcast run by blogger Emma Gannon, and she sounded so interesting. I loved hearing about her on that podcast. I'll link it in the below, in the below, it's like Stranger Things, in the description box, and so you can go and listen to that podcast if you like, because it was really interesting, especially about people working in creative industries, which I don't do as a full-time job obviously, but with the creation stuff that comes with YouTube, I find that quite interesting. It's all about hustling. Haven't read it yet, but I feel like anything that's going to give you advice in the work environment is going to be very useful. Next I have another non-fiction, and this is a pretty big book, but I'm really excited about it. I'm just looking at it rather than showing it to you. This is A Classless Society by Owen Turner, and this is about Britain in the 1990s. I can't tell you, I mean, look at it. It looks like it's going to be very, very comprehensive. But the 90s in Britain was quite an interesting time, because it was this time where a lot of people in Britain did feel like we had become post-class in a sense, although that's obviously not what had happened. And especially with what's going on at the moment with Brexit and everything, I feel like a look at our recent past, at something in a kind of 20 years ago, look at what was happening in society then, might give us some clues as to why we are where we are now. This one was a recommendation that I got on Twitter when I mentioned that I really enjoyed The Gender Games by Juno Dawson, and that is Trans Like Me by C.N. Lester. And again, this is just a book about their journey, about being trans, I imagine. I don't know too much about it other than I said I like The Gender Games. Someone on Twitter very kindly said, why don't you read this? I really liked it. So I wanted to kind of expand my reading around gender and sexuality in general. So this is going to be a good addition to that little collection that I have. And finally, a book of short stories, which I don't know too much about other than that it was a complete impulse buy, and that is How to Breathe Underwater by Julie Oringer. And the reason I bought this is because somebody mentioned it the other day. I think on Twitter people were talking about short story collections, and I think Jen or somebody said How to Breathe Underwater, and then someone else said it's out of print but it's still on Book Depository. So because someone had tweeted that, I was like, well, I'm on Book Depository now, I'll have to get it while I can. So I just kind of went, yeah, okay, and added it to my basket. So these are short stories about, what I get the sense of them is that it's about kind of coming of age and adolescence of being a teenage girl. But I will read them and let you know, because obviously people just tell me that things are good and I just go, oh yeah, okay, like blindly buying them. So that's a lot of books. I would love, love, love to hear from you. If you've read any of these, I'd like to hear more recommendations, really? I don't know. Maybe not more recommendations, but recommendations as to which one you would like me to read first, which ones you want to hear about. Like, do you want me to review any of these? So I'm just looking at them like, ah. So I hope that you are well, and I will see you in my next video. Bye.